Hello and welcome to the introductory session on artificial intelligence. In today's session, we are going to look into just the basic understanding of what is AI, that is introduction to artificial intelligence, then the various subsets which are there within AI. Then we'll discuss about machine learning. We'll also go through a little bit of examples, various examples which are there in machine learning. Then we'll see what is deep learning. Then we'll look into neural networks, or you can also call it as artificial neural networks, or ANN. Then we'll see the difference between machine learning versus deep learning. Then we'll see also why deep learning is important. Okay, how different it is from machine learning. After that, we'll look into a brief history of AI. After that, we'll see what is the relevance of AI today, and then we'll discuss about the various applications which are there with respect to AI. So first, to start off with AI or artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is an area of computer science that emphasizes the creation of intelligent machines that work and react like humans. So here, basically, it's like mimicking human behavior within machines. So any machine, like any computing device you see, which is capable of mimicking any kind of human behavior, you can say it's a artificially intelligent machine. So if you look at the various human behaviors, some of the basic ones are like recognizing. So humans can recognize things. That is like recognizing images, recognizing objects. So all these humans are capable of doing. Same thing we can also replicate within computers by using AI. The other things are like learning. Humans have the tendency to learn. They can learn from data. They can learn the relationship between things and all. And the other human behavior is planning as well as problem solving. Okay, so if you are able to mimic this kind of human behavior within computers, then those computer systems will be called as AI system or artificially intelligent systems. So now to look at various subsets of AI, there are basically two subsets of AI. So AI itself is nothing but where we are enabling computer to mimic human behavior, and within that we have something called as machine learning. So machine learning is where we'll be training computers, where machines can learn. So here basically machines are nothing but computing devices like a computer which has got processor and all, where it can process a lot of information, and it can store a lot of data or information. So now that is what is like if you look at machine learning. So machine here like machines has the ability to learn without explicitly being programmed. So here you can say the computing devices can learn from the data, or they can learn from whatever information we give without explicitly being programmed. And within that there is a subset called as deep learning. So deep learning uses something called as neural networks. Yeah, like that is the underlying architecture which is there within deep learning. So it is a subset of machine learning. So now here, like if you look at machine learning, it is the science of programming computers. So it is a way of programming computers so that they can learn from the data. So here computers can learn from the data. So here it is a science of programming computers. So basically what we do, like if you look at the image, we have some ordinary system here, and by using artificial intelligence, which is nothing but within that we'll use suppose machine learning. So in this we will give some data to the computer, and computer will try to learn the relationship within the data, and thereby by understanding how the data is related with one another, it can also predict on top of the data. And also like we can improve whatever study we are doing, that also we can improve using this machine learning. To take an example, suppose I want to find out the relationship between age and income. Okay, so I want to know how income and age are related with one another. So what I will do, suppose I give the data to computer, that is age and income, both of the data will be there. So now computer will try to understand using machine learning the relationship which is there between age and income. So when the age is increasing, how income is also getting affected. So it will try to understand the relationship between the two. And once it understands the relationship between them, then suppose I ask computer, okay, tell me what is the income for a particular age. Suppose I tell, okay, tell me what is the income for 24 years old, what should be your average income with respect to some specific domain. It will be able to predict me because once it has understood the relationship, it will be able to predict me on top of that. So that learning of machine, okay, which is happening, like machine is trying to learn from the data here, okay, so that is called as machine learning. So by learning from the data, they are also capable of like understanding and also like interpreting which is there within the data and also predicting on top of the data. So if you look at the way or a common architecture, just an overview of how machine learning actually works. So now suppose we have few data, suppose the data is labeled data. You can also put like unlabeled data. There are various types of machine learning. Okay, so we'll understand more detailed in the later classes. So here, like if you look at labeled data, suppose we are giving some data which is labeled. What do you mean by labeled data? Labeled data means where like it all already tells you what the data is all about. So like there is some specific label. So now suppose I'm giving some data with respect to car. Okay, like I'm saying, like I'm giving some data with respect to different types of car. Okay, so suppose there is an SUV. Okay, so there is a sedan. So like that I am giving some data to computer. So I will tell, okay, what is an SUV, what is a sedan. So what are the features which will tell us if the car is a SUV car, or what are the features which will tell us if the car is a sedan car. So that is what is labeled data. So this SUV or sedan, those are the labels for the current data, which is having different types of features. So when I give this labeled data, I'll be using some machine learning algorithm on top of this labeled data, so that my computer can also learn, okay, what are the different types of car. So my computer can also learn on top of the data whatever I am giving here by using machine learning algorithm. Then after it learns on top of the data, that is called as model. Okay, so once the system has learned the relationship within the data, that will be called as a model, or we can call it as a learned model. Now here you can see there are two types of data. One is training data. So I'm just giving some data to the computer and just training computer so that computer can learn. And after that I'll keep few data for prediction. So I can also keep few labeled data, and I can input it to the learned model, and it will give output whatever prediction is there. So if I give input saying, okay, these are the features of a car, predict me what type of car it is. So it will be able to predict from this learn model by using this learn model, because this learn model already knows how different cars are, like what are the different types of car with respect to features, like with respect to different type of features within a car. So it has already learned it, so that's why it will be able to predict. So this is how machine learning actually works. So here we just give some data, and based on the data it will try to learn, and thereby it can also predict. Okay, to take one more example here, to take an example of suppose leukemia. Okay, leukemia, or you can call it as blood cancer, okay, a disease. Now here, how does a doctor know if someone has leukemia or not? Okay, so when you go to a doctor, doctor will do certain test, and doctor will try to find out, okay, if you have leukemia or not. Okay, suppose you go to a doctor, and doctor will just prescribe you certain test, and you do this test, and based on that doctor will try to relate. So how a doctor knows what are the threshold values, or what are those features which will tend to leukemia, because doctor has been already trained. So here similarly, like we are training machines with the data. So we are giving some input data of like people who got affected with leukemia, or some of the people who don't have leukemia. So already our machine knows how like which kind of patients are leukemia patients or non-leukemia patients. So our model already like our computer already knows. So when a new patient comes in, it can easily predict by looking at the match. Okay, so it will try to look at the pattern of the new predicted like new data, whatever new data we are giving, it will try to look at the pattern, and thereby it will also predict if that new patient is having leukemia or not. So it's very similar how a human mind works. So our mind works by data. Okay, so our doctor has already been trained with those kind of data. So doctor already knows which kind of patient is having leukemia, which kind of patients will not be having leukemia. So doctor is already trained with that. So when a new patient comes in, doctor will just do certain test and we'll see, okay, like if it is near to leukemia or not. Okay, if the features are matching near to leukemia or not. So similar thing happens here as well in machine learning. So here once we train the machine by using different algorithms, they'll be able to learn and they will store that learned model in their memory. And once we give new data, it will be able to predict also. Okay, so this is an overall architecture within machine learning. Now, if you look at types of learning, or you can say types of machine learning, there are various types. Some of the basic ones are like supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement. These are the basic ones. So like that, there is batch-based learning, online learning, semi-supervised learning. There are many types, but these are the basic types of machine learning. So now supervised learning is where we are training computer with some labeled data, with some labeled data. So as I gave you an example of leukemia, or to find out if different types of car. Okay, so we have to train computer what are the different types of car. So those types are nothing but those are the labels. Similarly, to tell if a patient is having leukemia or not, so we have to train computer saying, okay, which kind of patients might be having leukemia, which kind of patient might not be having leukemia. So like that, we are supervising computer here. So that's why this is called as supervised learning or supervised machine learning. There are different class of algorithms which are there within supervised learning. We will discuss more detailed like when we look into machine learning sessions. That time we'll be looking into more detail about supervised. So it is just a way where we can supervise computer, where we can train computer, saying if these are the inputs, then this should be the output. So if a patient has got this particular thing, okay, suppose if the blood pressure of the patient is to some threshold, if the body mass index of the patient is to some threshold, if the glucose level of the patient is to some threshold, then this patient is having leukemia or not having leukemia. So like that, we'll be supervising computer. So once it has been supervised, it will learn on top of that labeled data, and thereby when new patient comes up, it will be able to predict. Like here, if you see, like one more example is email classification with already labeled emails. So here, like suppose you want to classify email saying if it is a spam mail or if it is a personal mail, if it is a promotion mail. Okay, so there if it is a social mail, so there are so many types of mail, okay, emails. So once we train computer saying, okay, what are the different types of mails, it will be able to classify the new mails. Whatever comes in, it will put it in different folder. So that's what currently, like if you see Google or any other mailing system, they do. The other one is unsupervised network or unsupervised machine learning technique. Unsupervised learning is discovering patterns in unlabeled data. So like when the data is not labeled, okay, when it is unlabeled, then we will be using unsupervised learning. So there are various algorithms, there are different types of algorithms in unsupervised learning, which will try to understand the patterns within the data because the data will not be labeled. So we cannot supervise computer anything here. We cannot train anything here. Computer will try to figure out the inherent structure within the data by understanding the patterns within the data. So there are various algorithms here, like there is something called as k-means clustering, there is something called as association, rule mining. There are a lot of things in unsupervised also. Various types of algorithm to work on top of unlabeled data. So one example is like clustering similar documents based on text. Now suppose you want to cluster documents. Okay, now to take a real-time example, like if you look at KYC data. Okay, so like know your customer KYC. Okay, that is like ID verification data. So like when you see KYC data, there are so many types of data. Like there is we have something called as Aadhaar card in India. We have like driving license. Okay, we have PAN card. So these are all KYC documents. Now, suppose somebody just uploaded the document. So how do you cluster it? Now somebody just uploaded all the document at one place, and you just want to cluster it, saying, okay, which one is like a driving license, which one is a Aadhaar card. You just want to put it in different folder. So now to do that, you can understand the pattern or the text pattern within the data, and you can group them together. Okay, so whichever patterns are matching, whichever data are matching, so you can say these are the data which are Aadhaar card, which tells us that these IDs are nothing but Aadhaar card. Similarly, a few others are there which are like PAN cards. So like that, you can group them. So this is something called as unsupervised learning. So this has also got a lot of applications. If you see, like a lot of real-time applications also are there. That is your grouping images together. Like you might have seen Google Photos, where they group images together based on similarity. They will try to create albums based on the like pic similarity. So like that, like if you see at Amazon, Flipkart, they also use unsupervised networks or unsupervised learning to create basically this one, that is like grouping customers based on their purchasing behavior, like to know who are premium customers, who all are regular customers. Okay, they can group them with respect to their purchasing behavior, and they can just cluster them out. This is unsupervised learning. So supervised and unsupervised learning are two most of the important, these are the two important learning in machine learning. Supervised has a lot of application, as I gave you one example of prediction with respect to like a particular disease like leukemia. Like if you look at supervised learning, there are a lot of applications. There are other applications like recommendation engines. Okay, that is like you might have seen in Amazon or Flipkart. Suppose you are buying a particular product, it will recommend you certain other product. Suppose you are looking for iPhone 12. Okay, you are looking for iPhone 11 or iPhone 12. It will give you some other recommendation saying, okay, you can go for like OnePlus, you can go for Samsung, some other phones. It will try to recommend you. Okay, by understanding, okay, how many features are matching, like that, or how people are interested, like what kind of products people are buying, who are looking into this product. So like that they do. So there are a lot of applications in supervised learning, as well as there are a lot of applications in unsupervised learning. So there are different types of algorithm which are there in supervised, and different types in unsupervised. Then the next one comes up, reinforcement learning. So reinforcement learning is a different area. You can say it is more towards AI, and it's being used in all places. Okay, right now you might have heard of like self-driving cars and all. In that also there is something called as convolutional q learning or q learning. Those kind of learning is nothing but reinforcement learning. There is also something called as go game. Okay, go game, like you can look into a product called as AlphaGo. There is something called as AlphaGo. So there was the AlphaGo is nothing but a product by a company called as DeepMind. It is under Google right now. Like AlphaGo was made to play with the champion of Go game, and it eventually defeated the champion of Go game. So AlphaGo learned all the possible scenarios of winning a game with a champion. Okay, so it's like it's nothing but a feedback based system. Reinforcement learning is learn to act based on feedback. So here, system or computers try to learn with respect to feedback, whatever feedback they get. Okay, so this is reinforcement learning. So there are a lot of applications in reinforcement learning. Like if you look at self-driving cars also, okay, where they are able to understand, okay, what are the different ways of driving the car when you are in a particular scenario, when you are in a particular situation. So that falls under reinforcement learning. So these are some of the basic types of machine learning. We are going to discuss more detailed about all the types in our machine learning classes. This is just an overview of different types of machine learning. Now to look at something called as human intelligence, that is brain. Okay, so as we are talking about AI here, so we are going to talk about a little bit of regarding brain. So here, basically, brain is nothing but this is the most important organ in the human body, and this is the organ which controls or coordinates actions and reactions, and also allows us to think and feel, and also it enables us to have memories, feelings. So all the things that make us human is nothing but this brain. Okay, so this is the most important organ in the body. So now we are able to think, we are able to solve problems. Okay, our body is able to actuate, Visualization is also connected to the brain. Our eyes, like we are able to visualize, understand, recognize, distinguish between objects. Okay, everything we are able to do because of this brain. So now here, that's why like this is the most important part within a human body. Now, if you look at deep learning, okay, so we understood what is machine learning. Now coming to deep learning. So now deep learning is nothing but it's a subset of machine learning which is concerned with algorithms that are inspired by the structure and function of the brain. So deep learning itself is nothing but it's a replica of brain, a mathematical replica of brain. So it is a subfield, okay, it is a subset of machine learning which is inspired by the structure and function of brain. It is also called as artificial neural networks. Okay, so deep learning is also called as artificial neural networks. Now, deep learning algorithms attempt to learn multiple levels of representation by using a hierarchy of multiple layers. So now here the learning is layer specific. Okay, like where it is more rigorous. Okay, learning is more rigorous here in deep learning. And there are like various types of layer within deep learning. We'll be discussing more into deep learning. So if you see, there will be just an overview. There is something called as input layer, then we have something called as hidden layer, then we have something called as output layer. So input layer is where you will give input to the system. Hidden layer is where model will learn, computer will try to learn on those inputs, and output layer it will try to predict. So now to look at major deep learning algorithms, these are the major ones. We are going to look into a lot of algorithms in our sessions. So these are the famous ones, that is unsupervised pre-trained networks, UPN. Then there is something called as convolutional neural networks, CNN. Then recurrent neural networks, also called as RNN. Then recursive neural networks. These are some of the most famous algorithms in deep learning. So this has got different use case. Like CNN has different use case. It's used in different kind of scenario. Recurrent neural network again in different scenario. Recursive again in different scenario. So we'll understand about all those things in the coming classes. So now, as we understood this one, that is deep learning is inspired by the structure and function of the brain. Okay, so that's what we saw, which we call it as artificial neural networks. So now, what is this artificial neural network? So it is nothing but it is a artificial neuron. So it is a replica of biological neuron. So it is a mathematical model of biological neuron. So what are these biological neurons? So now neurons or biological neurons are the basic functional unit of the nervous system, and they generate electrical signals called as action potentials, which allows them to quickly transmit information over long distances. Almost all the neurons have three basic functions essentially for the normal functioning of the cells in the body. That is, these neurons are responsible for receiving signals from outside. They are responsible for processing the incoming signals and determine whether or not the information should be passed along, and then communicating those signals to target cells, which might be other neurons or muscle or glands. So now these are the most important like nervous system, or you can say the basic functional unit within a brain. So there are like this billions of neurons in our brain interconnected together, which forms a network. So these are the main functional unit which are capable of receiving the output signals, and they can also process those signals, and they can also figure out which is important, which signal is important, which is not important, and thereby they can also give you a proper output with respect to that signal. So now if you look at a biological neuron, it looks something like this. You can see here the left hand image, and the right hand image is an actual microscopic image, which is a real image, okay, of the neuron. So here there are like this in our brain, there will be like billions of neurons connected together. So if you see at a single neuron, this is how a single neuron is. So this is also a biological neuron. So a biological neuron has basically three major parts. So it has like three major parts. So one is called as your synapse. Okay, synapse. So three major part and one extra part, that is synapse. So first one is called as dendrite. Okay, first one is called as dendrite, and then there is something called as cell body, or we also call it as soma. Then there is something called as axon, and then there is this synapse. So now to understand it with respect to artificial neuron, first we need to know, okay, what is this biological neuron and how actually it works. Now here if you see, the first one is dendrite. Now dendrites are responsible for getting incoming signals from outside. So dendrite is responsible for getting the incoming signal from outside. Next is cell body or soma. Soma is the cell body responsible for processing of input signals and deciding whether a neuron should fire an output signal or not. So it is the cell body responsible for processing a input signal, like whatever input signal is coming up. Okay, so this is the main logic which is there. Like this is just going to decide. Okay, should it be processed or not? So that's what soma will decide. Then next is axon. Axon is responsible for getting process signal from neuron to relevant cell. So axon is responsible to send them to the relevant cells. So axon is a deciding factor here. And the last one is synapse. Synapse is the connection between an axon and other neuron dendrites. So actually through synapse the output will go it is kind of output which might be connected to some other neurons, where the other neuron will receive it as an input. So that signal travels like this from dendrite to synapse. So it will go through dendrite, then from dendrite it will go to cell body, or you can call it as soma, then it goes to axon, then it goes to synapse. Now here the main two things here is, one is dendrite which will just take the input, and then soma is responsible for processing those input signal, and then axon is also responsible for getting those process signal from one neuron to other relevant cells, and synapse is nothing but a connection between axon and other neuron dendrites. So it is just the output which will be connected to other dendrites. So now here to understand with respect to this, okay, so like there is something called as artificial neuron. So what is this artificial neuron? So artificial neuron is the basic unit of neural network. So what we call it as artificial neural network. So for within artificial neural network, this is the unit, that is your artificial neuron, which is a mathematical function based on a biological neuron. So this is nothing but a mathematical function which is a replica of your biological neuron. So just a mathematical model of a biological neuron. So a lot of scientists will be discussing about that going ahead. They have done a lot of research and all, and they have figured out a mathematical replica or a mathematical model of this biological neuron, which is called as artificial neuron, or it's sometimes also called as perceptrons. It's also called as perceptrons. It can be seen as a simple logic gate with binary output. So it looks something like this. It will just be having some binary kind of output. So you can see here, like we have some input layer, some input values are there. Suppose we'll give some input, and that input will be assigned with something called as weight. Okay, so you can see weight. So weight is a deciding factor which will decide which input should be fired forward or not. Then there is something called as summing function. It's also called as weighted sum. So where all the input gets added to the added with the weight. Then there is something called as activation function, which will activate that signal further. Okay, and then after that you have the output, where you will just get the output. So here basically we have some input. So you can say this input layer is nothing but these are some input like x1, x2, like that. Some input is there which are associated with weights, and then we are having this summing function. So summing function, then on top of that we have some activated function. So the formula looks something like this, that is summation of x into w, summation of x into w, where I equal to 1 to n. Okay, so it will be xi wi, like that. So summation of x into w, this is plus b. Okay, then on top of that we have something called as activation function. Okay, we have something called as activation function on top of this summation data. So here what we are doing actually in a mathematical model, what we do Here we will be taking the inputs, we'll be assigning them with some weights, which are nothing but this will tell us, okay, which one carries more weightage and all. So here those will be like all the inputs will be assigned with some weights, and then we have some bias also. B means bias. So with that also there might be some bias, okay, as input. So that is what is B. And then on top of that we have something called as activation function, which is responsible to activate that neuron. Okay, it is responsible for activating that neuron. So this is how overall the equation looks like. Okay, this is how the overall the equation looks like within this. So this is artificial neuron, which is also called as perceptrons. So here also we have got some input, and we have got some soma, or the cell body, where everything is getting added up. Then axon is there, where it is just processing all the information, and then we have output, that is your synapse, which is just getting the output. So which is responsible for taking the output. So here, basically, like if you look at the input values will be passing input values to a neuron using this layer, and it might be something as simple as collection of array values. It is similar to dendrite. Okay, so this input layer is nothing but it is similar to dendrite. Then we have weight and bias. So weights are collection of array values which are multiplied to the input values. That's what we saw here, x into w. We then take a sum of those multiplied values, which is also called as weighted sum. This is also called as weighted sum. This part is also called as weighted sum. And then we add a bias value to the weighted sum to get the final value for the prediction by our neuron. Then there is something called as activation function on top of that, which is a deciding factor, which will decide whether or not a neuron should be fired or not. Then next is the output layer, which gives the final output of the neuron, which can then be passed to the other neurons in the network or taken as the final output value. So this is just an overview of artificial neurons. So now to look at machine learning versus deep learning. So we just understood deep learning is nothing but it's inspired by the structure and function of the brain, which we call it as artificial neural network. So within deep learning, we use something called as artificial neurons, which is a replica of biological neuron in our brain, which is the main part within the brain, the main functional part within the brain. And we also saw what is machine learning. So where machines have the ability to learn from the data without explicitly being programmed. So now to look at the difference between machine learning and deep learning. So what is the difference? So now the biggest advantage of deep learning algorithms are that they try to learn high level features from data in an incremental manner. So like it is a network of neurons. So within those network there are various layers here. Okay, like we have something called as input layer, where you will give some input. Then we have something called as hidden layers. There might be multiple hidden layers, and there is something called as output layer, where you will get the output. So within all of this layer there will be like a lot of neurons, and these neurons will be like deciding on top of the data in an incremental fashion, like which should be processed, what is the weightage of that. Okay, all those will be computed within those neurons. So this eliminates the need of domain expertise and hardcore feature extraction. So within this, we don't need much of domain expertise, like when you look at deep learning. But when it comes to machine learning, okay, you need to extract the features. Now here, like you can see this image, there is an example. Like suppose we have some input, and we have to predict from this input if this is a car or not. Okay, so we have some input, and we have to classify this if it is a car or not a car. Okay, like that we have to do some classification. So now in machine learning, what will happen? Like we have to first do something called as feature extraction. So we have to extract all the features of a car. We have to understand what are the important features which will tell me if something is car or not a car. So what features should I look for? Okay. So like that I have to understand here within a image. Okay, by extracting the feature. So I have to do feature extraction. So that is a manual process. After I do feature extraction based on my knowledge and all, I will use some machine learning algorithm, like classification or different types of algorithm are there. So I'll use an algorithm, and based on that, it will predict me if it is input to saying if it is a car or not a car. But when you use deep learning, there is no need of domain expertise or feature extraction. To extract the feature, we need to have domain expertise. We should know about car. Okay, so we should know more about car here. So in machine learning, so that we can extract the important features out of that. But when you look at deep learning, there is no feature extraction needed. You just give the input, and deep learning model you can use, and it will do feature extraction as well as classification. It will predict. So this is one biggest advantage of machine learning over deep learning. Some of the other things are like why deep learning is useful nowadays. So like mostly like manually designed features are often over specified. Like as we discussed in machine learning, we have to do feature extraction. So manually designing features are often over specified and incomplete, and also it takes a long time to design and validate to figure out what are the important features which are not. Okay, it takes a lot of time. Also we need a lot of domain expertise into this. Then learned features are easy to adapt, fast to learn. So in deep learning, what happens? It will try to learn the features by itself. So that's where it is easy to adapt, and also it is faster to learn. So deep learning provides a very flexible, universal and learnable framework for representing world visual and linguistic information. So here it is much more flexible, and also the framework can easily work around on top of the data. And like it does effective end-to-end joint system learning. So it is a kind of end-to-end joint system learning where it does everything of its own, like understanding the importance of feature, understanding okay what are the features which it should take to figure out the output of a particular data. So all those is done here. So also deep learning can process or utilize large amount of training data. So it can also utilize large amount of training data and can also understand more deeper insights within those. So around 2010, deep learning actually started outperforming other ML techniques. It started outperforming most of the ML techniques, like mostly in speech and vision. Then it outperformed the ML techniques in NLP. So here you can see a Google Trend graph. So where like this just shows you okay how everything is there, deep learning versus machine learning. But interest over time anyways, like deep learning also started gaining. Okay, like as machine learning was there, deep learning also started gaining, and around 2010 it started outperforming the ML techniques. So that's where like most of the research projects and most of the AI projects, deep learning was started being implemented. Like people started implementing deep learning within those. So we'll look into a brief history of AI, or you can say the timeline of AI. So first, like around 1956, the term was coined by John McCarthy. He was the one who termed the coin saying AI. So he is a computer scientist, American computer scientist. So he is also one of the founders or discipline of AI, you can say. So he coined this term AI. But there were a lot of research which happened earlier. Before that, also a lot of research already happened with respect to AI and neural networks. But around 1956, he first termed the coin something called as artificial intelligence. John McCarthy is also a developer of a very famous programming language which is used for data science and machine learning. It's called as Lisp language, LISP, Lisp programming language. He's also a developer of Lisp language. So around 1969, like we got something called as Seki. Seki was the first general purpose robot. Okay, it was the first general purpose robot which can reason about its own action. So Seki was able to reason about its own action. So that's where like robotic and AI came hand in hand, and like people were known about how good AI can be and how we can utilize it within robotics as well. After that, around 1997, there was something called as Deep Blue, which was designed by IBM. It was a project under IBM, and it is a supercomputer which can play chess game. So it was able to play a chess game. So here, like it was made to play with the world champions of a chess game, and this Deep Blue was able to defeat those players. Around 2002, like we got a robotic vacuum cleaner, which was called as Roomba. So Roomba, autonomous robotic vacuum cleaner, which had a lot of intelligent programming within that, and it can do limited floor cleaning. So like based on intelligence, it can figure out where there is dust and all, and it can clean the room. After that, from 2005 to till date, there are a lot of inventions, a lot of developments which has happened to AI. Like if you look at speech recognition systems, there are so many speech recognition systems like Alexa, Siri, like that. If you see Google Assistant, so many are there, which are like speech recognition system which are developed through which you can communicate with computers. They can also understand what you are speaking and they can reply you back. Then there is something called as RPA, robotic process automation, smart homes. A lot of projects are there. So like that, if you see right now, so many deep fake systems, so many systems are there. Also, like security, vulnerability check systems. So many systems has been developed with AI. Now to look into more detailed history of artificial neural network. So artificial neural network was first introduced in 1943 by a neurophysiologist Warren McCulloch and mathematician Walter Pitts. So they both wrote a paper, that is logical calculus of ideas immanent in nervous activity. You can also look over this paper in the internet. So that's when like they talked about how you can implement biological neuron, how actually our brain works, how our biological neuron actually works. So that is the main functional unit of the brain, and how does it do processing of information within the brain. And they also figured out a mathematical way of using the same thing, and that is ANN, or artificial neural networks. So they presented a model of how biological neurons might work together to perform complex computation. So this was the first artificial neural network architecture which was introduced around the time 1943. And since then, many other architectures has been invented. Now also you will see a lot of improvements. It's still happening to those. The early success of ANNs until 1960s led to the belief that we soon be conversing with intelligent machines. So around 1960 also, like a lot of improvement came up with ANN, where people started believing there is like intelligent machines which are going to come up. But due to various reasons, ANNs entered a long dark era. So after 1960 till 1980, you can say like almost 20 years of time, like there was no further development to the ANNs. So around 1980s, there was again a revival interest of ANN as new network architectures were invented and better training techniques were developed. So a lot of other improvement also happened, and also network architectures started to become more feasible for working around with ANN. That's where more interest came up with the same. So now here, like if you look at 1960, like as people started believing, okay, AI can actually we will be able to converse with intelligent machines, and that was possible because of something called as perceptron. So this perceptron is a mathematical model of biological neuron, which was developed by Frank Rosenblatt. So Frank Rosenblatt actually invented this around 1957 at the Cornell Aeronautical Laboratory, which was funded by U.S. Naval Research. So it was intended to be a machine. So you can see here like Mark 1 perceptron. It's actually a machine rather than a program. And while its first implementation was in software for the IBM 707, so 704. So it was first being implemented as a software within IBM 704. It was subsequently implemented in custom built hardware as the Mark 1 perceptron. So this is the hardware, like it's a big machine which is called as Mark 1 perceptron, and this was developed basically for image recognition. Okay, so it can recognize images. Okay, it can distinguish between images and all. So this was able to recognize as well as discriminate, okay, which a human brain can do. So it was able to simulate the ability of the brain to recognize and discriminate. So that's why like people started believing, okay, there are going to be like intelligent machines in the coming days. So, like with perceptrons, like if you see, and today's ANN, like we also call it as today's ANN. So this is the one which actually currently we use, and there are a lot of improvements to this particular model, that is perceptron. We have already discussed about like how biological neuron looks like and what are the different parts of a biological neuron, and we also understood regarding perceptron earlier. So perceptron basically like takes up some input. It will try to add up those inputs by multiplying the inputs with weights, and then it uses some activation function to decide which inputs should be carried forward, and there will be an output which will just give you some output. That output might be connected to some other input. So like this. So it's a mathematical replica of a biological neuron. So we'll understand more deeper about it in the coming sessions. So now looking at the history timeline, 1958 or 1957, you can say perceptron was introduced. 1969 actually perceptron was criticized. Okay, there were a lot of papers in which they found like a lot of papers were published, and like a lot of researchers found that perceptrons cannot work out with the architecture which was earlier, the network architecture which was there earlier. And after that there were a lot of improvements with the architecture, and that's where new techniques also came up to improve perceptron. Like there is something called as back propagation. Around 1940 and 1974 it was introduced, so we'll be discussing about back propagation as well in the coming classes. So that's where also like there was a lot of improvement to the way perceptron works. And after that, around you can say 1995, a machine learning algorithm was introduced called as SVM, Support Vector Machine, which solved a lot of like limitations which was there within machine learning. And after that, around 1998, convolutional neural network was introduced for handwritten digit recognition. We are also going to practice this problem statement in our classes, which was introduced by this guy. His name is Jan LeCun. He actually introduced this one. And Jan LeCun actually currently he works for Facebook AI. So he's a chief AI scientist at Facebook. And around 2006, like restricted Boltzmann machine was created by Geoffrey Hinton. Okay, Geoffrey Hinton. He's also currently he's working as a head of Google Brain. So there is a division called as Google Brain, which works into research development department. So here, Geoffrey Hinton works for that. He also teaches in Toronto University. He's a professor. And around 2012, Google Brain project was created. After that, like AlexNet came up. So like that, a lot of improvement is happening. Like if you see till now, there has been a lot of improvement into AI. Now, why ANNs are relevant today? Okay, why not in the earlier days? So we found that ANN came up around 1940 sometime, like 43. So why we are using it now? Okay, why there was not for much improvement in the earlier days? The reason was mostly there was lack of like powerful hardware as well as softwares, and the datas were very limited. Okay, now like if you look at humans, how humans are able to know, like how we are able to learn. We are able to learn because of the data. So every time like our mind is being trained with different types of data, and that's how like we learn. And in the earlier days, data were not there in the digitized format. Most of the data will be in like hard copies. Okay, there was not much soft copies in the earlier days. And when internet came up, like after that, big data came up. So big data is nothing but data which is big in size. Okay, a humongous amount of data, or a large amount of data. So that's why like when data started increasing digitally, it was possible to train computers on top of those data. So big data is one reason for which like AI started researching, and started gaining its name. Then after that, hardware also, if you see, like we have highly like powerful massively parallelizable hardwares right now, like GPUs, graphical processing unit with like thousands of cores. Okay, like if you compare it with a CPU, GPUs will be having like thousands of cores and all. So that's where like GPUs came up. Now also we have Google developed something called as TPU, TensorFlow Processing Unit, which can process like a lot of complex data at very minimal time. And after that also we have a lot of softwares right now, like which are powerful and improved software. Those are like TensorFlow, PyTorch, Latte, Cafe. There are so many softwares which are there, improved models which we can use right now. So that's where like AI is gaining a more view today because of the possibility of big data and like highly powerful systems, hardware systems, and because of the improvement within softwares. Now, now we'll discuss about the applications of AI. We'll discuss about the various applications of AI. So first one is like to see classifying billions of images. Okay, how Google is able to classify so many images. Now, like suppose you go to Google search and you type suppose dog. Okay, here I have typed dog. So here it shows me all the pictures of dogs. So how it is able to classify? Okay, so when people are uploading pictures of dog, it doesn't mean that they will label it saying okay it's a dog picture. Okay, it can be something else also. The name can be very different. Okay, you can see here it says most popular breed American Kennel Club. So it's like sometimes people will give a different name. There might not be a name saying dog. So how is it able to recognize this kind of thing? So it's like they do huge amount of images. They do classification with like on top of huge amount of data. So there might be billions and like trillions of data within like images of dogs within Google, and they will try to classify this. So this is possible because of deep learning. Some other examples like applications or use cases are like face recognition, or like nowadays, like in all the mobile devices, we have face recognition, that is face unlock, where devices gets unlocked by recognizing a face. So that's what is face recognition. Also, like if there are like hundred of people, it can recognize individual face nowadays. Okay, which is used for security aspect and all. So this is one major application of AI. We are also going to look into face recognition applications. We are going to see a very deeper insight into actually machines look into faces and they understand the different aspects of a face. Emotion detection is one more application which is there, which is a very important application. Like if you see right now, it has created a lot of opportunity within computer vision. That is emotion detection, expression detection, detecting different kind of expressions. Okay, here you can see it can detect fear, it can detect sadness, it can detect if someone is happy or not. So many things are there. Okay, which has been improved with AI. Other applications are object detection. Object detection is like it can detect each of the individual object within an image. So there might be multiple things within an image. So you can see here like there is a push cart, there is a building, there are like humans. Okay, there are bags. It can also detect bag. It is detecting a bicycle. So it is detecting so many things within this image. So it is detecting like each of the aspect within this image. So this is also possible. Like we are also going to look into a lot of algorithms like YOLONet and all, and ResNet, okay, which are very famous for object detection. And then voice assistant. These are all we have so many voice assistant systems like Siri is there, Cortana is there, Alexa, Google Assistant, Bixby. So there are so many which are there right now. If you see voice assistants in India, we have like voice assistants which can understand regional languages. Okay, they can understand regional languages as well, not only English. These are all English voice assistant, but there are assistants which are able to understand regional languages as well. And then thinking machines is one major application, like as we discussed about Deep Blue. Deep Blue is a robotic system which was able to play chess game. Similarly, there is something called as AlphaGo. Okay, there is a program called as AlphaGo which was developed by DeepMind. DeepMind was a separate entity earlier, but right now it is under Google. DeepMind created something called as AlphaGo. So AlphaGo is a program which was made to play with the champion of chess, champion of Go game. So there is a game called as Go game, and like AlphaGo was made to play with a Go game champion called as Lee Sedol. Okay, it was made to play with Lee Sedol, and AlphaGo actually defeated Lee Sedol. After that, if you know right now, like I think 2 years back, 1 or 2 year back, Lee Sedol actually left the game, saying that right now computers are much more intelligent, so humans should put their mind in different things. They should not be playing this. So that's why like he left this game. He retired from this Go game. So this is a system which was created by DeepMind. So it's kind of a thinking machine, a very powerful system which can play this game. Okay, so this game is very tough game. This is one of the toughest game like which is there. This is a Go game. Next, if you see some other applications, there is something called as deep fake. So deep fakes are like you might have seen over internet, like people create fake videos. Okay, like here if you see, there are two videos. One is actually a real video, the other one is a fake video. Okay, of Obama, Obama giving a speech. So like that, if you see, there are so many applications, so many movie trailers. Also, people are trying to change the face, okay, of the celebrity within that. Okay, putting somebody else's face, so where it will look very very original. Okay, like you will not be able to figure distinguish them at all. So there was a challenge also which was introduced by Google like last year over Kaggle, and that was to predict if a video is fake or not. It is very difficult here because if you look at the voice also will be properly synced with the face, and like the entire thing will be fake, and it's very difficult to detect if it's a fake or not a fake video. So deepfake is also one application. We are also going to look into deepfake. There is something called as generative adversarial network, which are used here. We'll also see those. Next, automation, self-driving cars. Like everyone would be knowing about this one, self-driving cars. So much invention is happening into this. So much research is still happening into this self-driving car concept. A lot of big companies are currently working into this self-driving car concept. Like if you look at Tesla and all, as well as Google is also into this self-driving car. So this is also done using like various Q learning, deep Q learning techniques, which also we are going to see the self-driving car how it works. So there is a company like which is there are a lot of companies, as I told, like Tesla is there. Also there is a company called as Waymo. Waymo is also a company which is currently under Google. That is the Google's parent organization called as Alphabet. So that's where like Waymo is working. So it's a project under Google, okay, which is like a self-driving car project. You will also see this car project is being implemented. Like if you look at Google Campus in Palo Alto, you will see like there will be cars moving without anyone driving those. Okay, so those are already being implemented within their campus. Other applications are like pattern recognition. It's for like theft detection and all. PayPal also uses like PayPal is a site which is a money transfer site, and they also use this one, that is pattern recognition within their system to analyze like fraudulent activity or any fraud happening within the payment transaction. Those things they analyze within their system using AI. As well as like if you look at something called as radiography, there is something called as radiography. There are a lot of companies in India as well who are working into radiography. So it's like Cure AI is there. There is Tricog is there. A lot of companies are there into this radiography, where they analyze the X-rays or MRIs or CT scans, and they try to figure out, okay, what is wrong within the body. Okay, what might be wrong within the body. So they get into micro detail. It's also called as micro scanning of the radiography images. So that's where also like deep learning is used. So there are a lot of applications like this. If you look, I look at this, there are right now deep learning is also able to create music. There is something called as IVA. You can also look into that. There is something called as IVA. Okay, artificial intelligence virtual artist. Okay, so it's a virtual artist. It's nothing but it's an intelligent system which can actually uh, create music. Okay, it creates music of its own. So like that, like AI is able to do all these sorts of things. So AI is able to also like do drawings and all. Okay, so it's like something which was which a lot of like a lot of imagination is needed, okay, when you are doing this, but AI is capable of doing these sorts of thing as well. So like using AI you can also make art, using AI you can also make music. Okay, so all these thing is possible with AI. There is also a very good example of AI. You might have heard of Sophia. So it's a robot like which can which has got a lot of emotions. It can understand emotions and all. It was developed by a Hong Kong based company called as Hanson Robotics, and this was actually being introduced around 2016. And this can this robot is something like a properly humanoid kind of robot which can speak, which can understand emotions and all those things. You can also look at certain other projects like Aibo is there. So the Aibo is nothing but it's a dog which is created by Sony. So Sony company, it's called as Aibo. So it is a robotic dog, and it is also created on top of AI, where it can understand all kind of like emotions, gestures, okay, which are given by humans. It can understand all those things. So like that, there are various applications which are there with respect to AI. And like if you look at software applications, also there are a lot of applications which are currently there, and also there is a lot of improvement happening at very high rate right now. And all this is possible because of the amount of data that is there. Like every day, every second, there are like petabytes or exabytes of data being generated. Okay, so that's where AI is also improving. Computers are able to learn on top of this huge or humongous amount of data, and they are also able to interpret, and they are also able to do logical reasoning, problem solving. Okay, so like planning out the strategies, all these thing is possible right now with AI. Okay, so this is all about the introduction to AI. So that's all for today's session. So thank you all for attending this session.